Yellen and Law Podcast. You get the information you need in terms you can understand and act upon.
Welcome to episode 4 of Yohanan Law Podcast. I'm with Levi Paris, Jewish musician and social media personality, and I just want to get right into it. So the first thing I want to know from everyone who comes on here is, how did you get into what you do? How did you become good at music and social media? You didn't just wake up one day with your talents. What was your journey to get there? And, did that start as a child? Like, how did you grow up? Were you around these kind of businesses? What piqued your interest?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, Adam. And the first thing I would say is, as someone who is obsessed with marketing, storytelling, music, creativity, you really got to hype me up more than that. You gotta say world class, world traveler, social media expert, Jewish music artist, pioneering the sonic landscape and culture for religious music fans. So that's what I would say. What got me interested in creativity in general is I grew up in a very creative family, always listening to music, very theatrical. And by the time I got to college, I realized that if I wanted to make money as a creative individual, I have to know marketing. I have to know how to communicate the value of anything and be able to sell that to people. And what I found is people don't want to be sold to. They want to connect to something. They want solutions to their problems. So I'm making it my mission to find ways of relating products and brands to an audience that finds value in it and making that as coherent and relatable as possible.
So is that the strategy to sell music, or is that the strategy to sell, things in general on social media?
Specifically with music, it's really interesting because the music industry more and more is becoming entertainment, and you can no longer be a pure music artist. Now you also have to be, a social media personality, a video editor, a live performer as always, but graphic designer. So it's being a music artist is different than it used to be 10 or 20 years ago, because you have to really entertain and engage with your audience in so many more platforms. But what I was speaking about before, about captivating your audience and being able to relate things by selling a product, that's just social media and marketing in general. But when it comes to promoting music, the same principle of storytelling and branding apply in that regard, for my opinion.
So in today's world of competitive social media and so many people, being DIY musicians, they do it all themselves, they make the videos, they do the graphic design. How do you catch people's attention and create a spark for yourself?
It's all about having a good product. Number one, the song has to be fire, and being able to tell a story around it in some fashion. Now, there's a way that I've done it, and then there's ways that other artists do it. And the truth is, there's no formula that is going to work for every artist. For example, some music artists have incredible production. They've worked with Gucci Mane, Ty Dolla $ign, Kanye, but they themselves have no charisma whatsoever. So to market their own music is very difficult. That being said, on the flip side, you'll have someone with zero talent, but they made a song that is so iconic and catchy, and the visuals are so compelling that they can go viral in that moment. The thing is, it's really, really important to keep in mind that whatever you invest your energy into, you need to think about it in the long term and the short term. So in the long term, it's very important to make the best music possible that you'll be proud of 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that you really feel connects with you. For me personally, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to make music that emotionally, it makes me feel something very powerful. If I feel something very emotionally compelling, then I'm excited to share that with other people, and the odds that other people will relate to that are higher. In the past, what I've done is I would just bust out records really fast. I'm talking have one recording session, edit it, and then post it, and then spend months marketing it through social media. And what I found is that strategy generated me millions of views, but my songs would get like thousands. So it was very disproportionate. And now I'm actually reflecting on my own brand and saying, well, damn, I would like to make better music and then promote that rather than just focusing only on promoting it.
I mean, the reason I found out about you was really just because you had that first really fire song, Hashem, and that was probably one of the best Jewish songs I had ever heard in my life. And it had the same kind of great production you would see from big musicians, but the song was very meaningful and it actually, evoked emotion and made you feel something. So for me, once I caught on to that, I was hooked. But perhaps the reason I, remembered you and was able to look you up again, because I guess I hear cool songs all the time, must have been that the whole social media, vibe in general and the nature of the content and the charisma, it was very memorable and catchy. And I think so many artists today, they just want to be great artists, and it's hard to deal with the reality of being also an influencer. And I know people in every single industry, not just the arts, where they feel like there's pressure to be their profession and then also be an influencer as well. And that's kind of the only way in a lot of spaces. And with music and, entertainment, it's kind of become essential that. So how do you work within the modern structures of what social media looks like, specifically all the videos being less than 60 seconds, very short attention spans? It's not the same as it was, forget 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. There's not much of a concept of it used to just be all SoundCloud and the diehard music fans would elevate new artists. Now there's a go around. You don't have to interact with the diehard music fans and you don't ever have to be underground. You can just go straight to the top, and you can do that without any radio or record connections whatsoever. So what do you think about that current social media environment and people's ability to adapt to that? Or if that's all they've known, how is that an advantage?
Yeah, I would say that on the surface level, it seems very simple. And in some ways it is, right? All it takes is one video to get multi-million views to get into the spotlight. But that being said, a lot of the traditional modes of being a successful music artist still apply. Playlisting, radio time, record labels, having a loyal cult-based following, all those things are still relevant. And I don't think social media actually replaces any of it. That being said, social media is the most sought after marketing channel in today's generation because of how immediate you can reach millions of people. So it's really just a strong marketing channel. And by marketing channel, I mean social media is a platform where people can be exposed to the music, to the artist, and to whatever that person is sharing. But it actually doesn't replace the quality of the music, for one. Social media does not replace a live performance. Nothing can ever replace a live performance where an artist is serenading you. That being said, what social media does that we've never had ever in history between music artists, brands, entertainers is there is the opportunity to connect with someone on a personal level without being in the same room. Some brands, some influential people can literally talk to the camera and say, I had a bad day today. Or they can show what food they're cooking. And if people really like their music for whatever reason, they can then connect to their personality. And that is something that we've never had. Even more so now we have access to it in our rooms, on the go, always. The way I view social media for entertainers is it's basically, for one, it's engaging with your audience in the most personal and widely accessible method we have today. So you can relate to people on so many levels with social media. Is it your portfolio? It's your social credibility. If someone has, proof that they have 100,000 eyeballs on them every month or every week, that makes them more valuable and it gives them social leverage. But it's not the one and only solution. It's a very important part of a brand, but it's not the solution to everything. I believe in it, but I wouldn't take on a client, and I wouldn't want to market music that wasn't actually good, you know, or if someone had no personality and it was bad music, it's a lose-lose. They got to have at least a good personality or a good product, one of the two.
Okay, so let's get into that then. How did you become so good at music, and how did you create this personality that we know today? You said you come from a creative family. What else did you pick up when you were growing up?
Yeah, so by the way, thank you. I'm glad you think my music is good. And, I try to make the best music I can. In terms of creating good music, I would say it's just repetition and not being afraid to try new things consistently. Also working with talented producers and befriending people who I look up to and admire their skills has been really important, because it's allowed me to learn from them and enjoy the process of collaborating, and just spending hours and hours writing lyrics and freestyling, making up melodies. In terms of how did I create it seems like you also asked, how did I create this narrative, right? Like, how did I find my personality so I could share it?
Yeah, where did Levi Paris come from?
Yeah, I would say, Levi Paris came from Hawaii, grew up in public school, and a lot of my education, I always felt so out of place. And I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. I think the jocks are all, insecure, but then they have their chest up, all acting masculine, like, and that's how they assert dominance and feel secure, but they're really so insecure. The popular girls don't think they're beautiful enough or popular enough, and they act like they're too cool for school. So that's how they defend themselves, right? The nerds, they feel insecure. They feel like, I'm so lame, but they're smart, so they could just make fun of everyone for being stupid, right? The goths, they say, there's no point in life, whatever, I'm so edgy, like no one like knows how to like be as edgy as me, right? And I found myself just observing all of that, and I felt like it was so wrong. I felt like I was wronged by my teachers for not teaching me how to work on my self-esteem, for not cultivating an environment that was safe for self-expression. And just I had a lot of thoughts like that growing up, and I always felt like an outcast. And I remember my senior year of high school, I can't make this up. This is so crazy. And I feel like it really is a testimony to my personality. By my senior year of high school, I essentially stopped trying to be friends with everyone. And turns out a lot of people didn't try to be friends with me. I realized that I was investing so much time and energy into people who couldn't care less if I was their friend or not. And it was a reality check, but it was good because I was one of the only people in my high school who had the balls to do that. So anyways, I wrote this song with a lot of aggravation. I used to write very aggravated lyrics in the form of rap. And this was around the time where school shootings were happening. I don't know if whoever's watching remembers how terrible the school shootings were, but it was very prevalent in the US for way too long, for over a year. And it just really got to me. And I remember one day, like I had written a whole song. I went into about maybe 15 or 20 classrooms my senior year. I just left class and I walked into classrooms and I said, hey guys, I have a song I want to share with you. And some of the teachers were like, okay, cool, come in, perform. Other teachers were like, well, we're kind of teaching. You can't just walk into the classroom. And I feel like this says a lot about my personality. I said, okay, since we live in America and it's a democracy, let's take a vote. Who here would rather, stay asleep while your teacher lectures you into a daydream with your head in your books? I see half of you here, you're not interested. Who would rather do that for the next 3 minutes? Or you guys could hear a totally new song that I just made for 3 minutes. It's going to be a great performance. Let's do a show of hands, okay? First option, stay asleep in math class? No? 2 people? Okay, now who wants to vote for me? The performance. Okay, and then everyone raises their hands. And then at that point, the teacher's like, all right, man, just perform. I feel like that explains my personality a lot. I just naturally have this audacity to me where if I feel like something should be said and my emotions are very strong about that, I will pursue it to an extent where I don't care how stupid I look. So not everyone has that personality, but for me, I embrace the cringe. I'm not afraid of people judging me because I know they do it anyways, and I know that I can play into that. Since I'm not afraid of that judgment or embarrassment, I can share things online that can get a lot of views, and it doesn't affect me negatively that there's a lot of bad comments and stuff. I embrace the cringe.
Okay, so you learned that, when you were just in public school doing whatever you wanted there. And I went to public school as well. It's a great place to just kind of do whatever you want, because the reality is, if you go to Jewish school growing up, you kind of have to behave. And obviously that's a good thing in many ways, because you learn a lot, which is great. But public school is a place where you can find yourself. And lots of Jewish people who go to public school, have experiences where they were just wilding out in public school, and none of the other public school kids, were on the same page. So I think that's very common. But when did you get into yeshiva life and learning and all that?
So when I was in high school, I remember I was so like emotionally challenged and existentially just constantly in an existential crisis. And I was thinking, why is no one asking about what happens after death? Why is no one asking about what their purpose is? Are people this stupid? Are they this, narrow-minded? And I remember I would go to the forest and like sing and rap. Right, that was my prayer, was music. And I got bagels and cream cheese every now and then at this thing called NCSY on Friday lunches. And that's actually it's a Jewish organization that goes into high schools and teaches you a bit about Judaism. And I didn't know what I was doing. But I ended up going on 2 Shabbatons, which is basically where on the weekend I would go to a hotel and there was like a Jewish programming thing. And then after I would come back home. I didn't even know it was Shabbat on those. I went on 2 of them. And on one of those Shabbatons, I got to ask a rabbi a lot of questions. He said, look, you can ask me as many questions as you want. So I was like, finally, someone to ask questions to. So I asked him a bunch of questions and he said, wow, I didn't think you had that many questions. And I said, well, I'm actually happy that I could ask them. Something that was interesting to me is that the rabbi didn't have answers to all the questions. He had a lot of answers, but not all of them. But what I cared about was that it was okay to talk about that, because so much of my life, meaningful conversations were just taboo and no one cared about them enough to talk about them. So, it was college or Yeshiva in Israel. Yeshiva is where you go and learn Torah like all day, all year. And I didn't know that at the time. So I chose Israel and I stayed there for 2 years, and now I wear a yarmulke. I even made a song about my yarmulke.
So wait, when you went to yeshiva in Israel, you didn't realize that was going to be studying Torah all day? What did you think? You think you were going to the kibbutz or something?
Dude, I don't know. I thought it was like I knew it wasn't America. I knew it was Israel. I knew I could connect with my Jewish heritage and I could become a better person, right? Refine my character traits. I didn't know the extent of what I was getting myself into at all.
So what was the learning like? Was it the first time you had learned Gemara and advanced things like that? Were you just thrown into it?
Yeah, I never learned Gemara before that. I didn't even know Hebrew.
But you just picked it all up like Aleph Bet. You just became self-taught in Israel quickly.
Yeah, so there's a thing in the Torah for whoever's watching. The way that people learn Torah is they learn the Aleph base, which is the alphabet. Then they learn the Chumash, which is essentially the 5 books of Moses. Then they learn halacha and stuff, Musar. I may be messing this up. And then they learn Gemara, right? For me, I was learning that all at the same time. It's all the same time. So it was very challenging. And I felt a lot of times that I was just behind, but I wasn't embarrassed of that, because I was embarrassed so many times in public school that there was no capacity for me to be embarrassed anymore. Yeah, it was profound though. I was curious. So the advantage that I had over someone who grew up with the whole Jewish system was for me, everything was so new that it was just all exciting and interesting, right? None of it was boring, except for, Gemara sometimes was boring. I was I don't get why we're doing this. But in general, It was very stimulating, and I love that.
So that was the first time you were learning like Chumash, like growing up, like you didn't go
Yeah.
to like Hebrew school or anything like that.
No.
Wow. Did you have like a bar mitzvah?
Funny enough, my parents wanted me to have a bar mitzvah, and I was in that stage of life where I said no to everything. So I wish I said yes, but I did not have a bar mitzvah.
It's okay. I know lots of I was talking to a big rabbi last week. He grew up on a kibbutz in Israel. He never had a bar mitzvah either, but he's definitely read from the Torah many times. So how long did you just stayed 1 year at Yeshiva? That was in Jerusalem?
I stayed 2 years in Jerusalem, including through COVID.
Wow.
Like my last year at Yeshiva was when COVID hit in 2020 or 2019.
Huh.
And I stayed through the year, and I went back, the regular time. I didn't go back early.
So I heard that COVID in Israel was actually one of the more intense lockdowns just because of the nature of the society. It's so small and like there was a lot of risk. What was that like? I'm sure not everyone in Jerusalem was going along with it.
Yeah, so I couldn't leave my dorm. Like I couldn't even go in the base medrash. They had to bring me food. And this lasted for maybe 4 weeks. Just luckily, I could open my window and go on my roof and tan and work out. So I remember it just turned into a giant rager. Like I was the dorm counselor because it was my second year there, and I had a bunch of first year guys in my dorm, and we were basically just sleeping in, going on the roof, tanning, working out. Guys were smoking, like we just had a great time. It was a great place to be. Some people snuck out. I didn't really sneak out much, but yeah, it was hard. It was very difficult as well because you're limited. So we really made the best of it. But yeah, it was difficult for sure.
Where does one? I always ask this to people who do like, yeshiva and seminary in Jerusalem. Like, where does one go when they sneak out? Like, does it depend on which yeshiva you're at? Like, you go to Tel Aviv?
So
like what?
the truth is, I didn't do a lot of sneaking out. I'm a pretty rebellious. I was a rebellious kid and teenager, but when I was in Israel, I was like down. I was down for the growth. A lot of people would sneak out and go to like Ben Yehuda, take shots and stuff. Like I don't know. I'm not gonna endorse sneaking out, but just know it does happen.
No, totally. So okay, so you
yeah.
So you made it 2 years through, Yeshiva in Jerusalem, including COVID, and then you went to Yeshiva University, which is a college in New York.
Yeah.
So what was that like? What did YU do for you and your career? In terms of not just what you learned at the school, but just meeting people there and gaining skills from all the people in that environment, because it's a hub of young Jewish life, and there's so many future entrepreneurs who are in YU right now and at all times. And, I'm curious what that environment is like, and how do you think it would have compared to going to a regular secular school?
Yeah, I got a lot out of Yeshiva University, and I'm happy I went because I never thought I would go. And like you said, a lot of the value of being in YU is just the people. You're around so many young entrepreneurs, doctors, computer scientists. You're basically around the future leaders of the Jewish generation at YU, because there's so many students in college together at the same time. What's cool is that you don't have to be religious to go there, and you can be very religious and go there. So that's something that's cool. I like how it got me in New York. Just being in New York and being in a Jewish community as a young professional looking to explore my career was huge. And as much as I appreciated my college coursework and the curriculum, I would say just being able to make friends with like-minded individuals at Yeshiva University was huge. I definitely did not go for their music program. I went to learn how to operate and how to maneuver in the business world. So going to YU allowed me to be in situations where I would then meet other people in New York, learn business lingo, get exposed to other things. And I think it's good. It's good that it's a college that also has a strong emphasis on Torah values, especially since in the last stretch of Yeshiva University, the war in Israel with Hamas and all that, it flared up like crazy. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be in a prestigious college like Harvard or Columbia or USC and just not be tolerated on campus. So in that sense, there's a level of security there, and it's a really solid education. I'm happy with it.
I think YU has become so much more of a prominent option for Jewish kids who want to go to college, much more than it used to be because of how terrible all the other colleges have become. There's a realization, I think, now that we're in such an information age, college is not the only place to get the information. So like you mentioned, obviously it was a great education. You could have learned music and marketing on YouTube if you spent all day doing it. You could have still found mentors, but there's an essential part of college that still draws people in for whatever reason, and it's the networking and the community building and growing as a person. I have relatives who are like starting at like Cornell right now, and you look at what's going on in the news and it's just chaos. No one's doing anything about it. It's the type of stuff that if it was happening to anyone else, it would be shut down in a day. But that's the beauty of America is people have freedom of speech, and freedom of speech goes hand in hand with freedom of association. So if these colleges want to allow their great reputation and their great history to become tarnished, then that's going to be to YU's benefit. And, I went to Tulane University, which is one of the, mainstream schools that is not going to become overrun because there's such a strong Jewish community there, and they're just not going to let it happen. And there's a few schools that are like that, but at these elite Ivy schools where you have such a concentration of just spoiled rich kids who are just looking for something to believe in, this is what's hot right now. So what Jewish people need to do is wait until these people find something else to flip out over, and then maybe the environment will get better. But I hope we take this opportunity to build up our own institutions, and people should invest in YU. And just by going to YU, you're investing in YU. And people who hire kids out of college, they should hire from YU and from Torah and all the schools that are related, or have a similar vibe, because when you have a school that's pretty much all Jewish, there's going to be an entrepreneurial mindset on campus. And a lot of schools claim that they have an entrepreneurial mindset on campus, but for the most part, most schools don't. Most schools are just funneling kids into corporate America, which is fine. But I think especially if you're Jewish, it's better to not do that if you can, because it's going to give you more space in your life to do all the other things that you need to do. And that's another thing I wanted to ask you about is, what are your thoughts on, having a so-called real job or being in corporate America versus just being a freelancer or an independent artist or a small business owner? And many, young people in general of all backgrounds are wondering about that question. And I don't think there's a clear-cut answer, but, I don't know if you've ever had that experience of working in corporate America, or if you were able to make it on your own from the beginning.
Yeah, there is no clear-cut answer. I've met 18-year-olds who have their own marketing agency and do advertisements at a high level for Mall of America, and I've also met 30-year-olds who have never had a corporate job and are struggling in the entrepreneurial industry. So it's a wide range of things. There's no perfect system. I think the number one most important thing is just acquiring knowledge and growing and learning and making yourself an asset, because God hands us opportunities and good luck. The way that I define good luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. And I believe I'm a very lucky person because I'm constantly striving to learn as much as I can. And when opportunities arise, I jump at them. In my own personal business and branding, I've generated a good amount of success in terms of brand awareness, which has led to client acquisitions. So I started my own LLC. You would know about this, Adam. You helped me make my LLC. And this was in my senior year of college. And the reason I did it, the reason why I made Paris Media LLC is because people were just reaching out to me saying, hey, I like what you're doing. Can you coach me in social media? Hey, I like what you're doing. Can you help me with my branding? Hey, your videos are really on point. How do you make them? I would love to hire you. And it just kept coming up. So I made my own business, and it's not at the point where it's fully financially stable, in the sense where I still need to work a part-time job and I still want to gain experience working at a full-time job capacity. And I digress in order to make a point, which is some people can just right off the bat just start their own business and hit momentum, ground running, and it just does great, right? It comes with challenges, but it does great. I think it's very important to get experience making mistakes for someone else's company in an association where you can learn, have guidance, and see how it's done, see how other people are doing it. So that's what I'm doing in the music industry right now. I have an internship doing music marketing for Black Box in LA, where it's a marketing agency for music artists, and it's a lot of digital marketing and legwork and stuff. And for me, I just want to know how that industry works. And since graduating Yeshiva University technically I finished my classes in January 2024, and then June I think my official graduation ceremony was. Since then, I've been focusing mainly on learning through hands-on experience as much as possible. So I haven't been prioritizing clients, but because I have a brand and I've generated so many impressions online through my marketing and social media, within the past 2 weeks, I've had 4 client leads that I didn't go out seeking them. Like, they came to me just because of what I've been doing. And that was like an affirmation. So I would definitely say it's important to increase knowledge, hands-on experience. And a big thing is just getting to know people and learning how to network on a personable level. Like knowing how to genuinely connect with people, ask the right questions in an appropriate way, figure out what they do, and be curious. So a lot of times I'll ask questions about other people first and get to know them, so much so to the point where I don't even mention myself. And then at a certain point, they're like, wait, what's this guy's name? Like, yo, I'm opening up to him so much. Like, what does he do? And they're like, what do you do? And they're curious because you've asked them so much. And then I'm like, oh yeah, like whatever. Like, I do social media marketing. I make music. I market brands and music artists. And I'm low key about it. I've learned that my work will speak for itself and I don't have to cake it up, And if people dig deeper, they'll see that I can get results. But overall spectrum of things is that it's a balance of learning, 1, 2, getting really good connections. I would rather have 5 great connections than 100 okay connections. I think those 5 connections will get you so much farther. So learning, connections, practice, and taking risks. Practice taking risks, calculated risks, repetitions, whether it's your skills, your brand, whatever you're doing, consistently practice it. And then 4, you got to be making money. And if you're not taking risks in entrepreneurial endeavors, might as well do a part-time job or a full-time job that gives you the skills or capital required to continue learning and growing, so that way you can become a full-time entrepreneur. But yeah, just always being curious, like reading podcasts, going to social events. Find someone that you look up to and go wherever they go. If they're going to networking events, get there. You know what I mean? Like tail them. And it shouldn't be something that you should be shy of, So that's I know it's a lot. It's really a lot of stuff, and the truth is it's a process, but the number one thing is that you invest in your growth and development and learn to just build that confidence. Even if you're not 100% qualified, just be confident.
I think that's all brilliant advice, and it's pointing out some of the things that can be good about being in corporate America or having a real job. But it shows when you're young, regardless of what you're doing, you have to just put in the work, to put in the hishtadlut, to build the vessel, and you have to do it. People always say, there's a good phrase, they say trust the process. And I think what that means is, if you're just doing the right things, you're meeting new people, you're learning the right things, you're putting some money in the bank, that's going to lead most likely somewhere good. And you're not going to be able to choose or to control or to predict exactly how it leads to something good. And it might be a totally different blessing than what you were expecting, but you still have that responsibility to build the potential, build the rocket that can take off. And you're not going to get anywhere unless you have those fundamentals down. And it's true that can happen if you're on your own or if you're in corporate America. So the last thing I want to ask you is, who are your biggest influences in the Jewish music scene? Because it's kind of exploded in the last 10 years in a way we haven't really seen in a long time, at least in terms of pop music. Obviously, there's always been good, Israeli music, but on the U.S. scene, things have picked up. So who do you like?
Great question. First of all, I would say Nissan Black was a big inspiration for me, just in the sense of, wow, you know, he does hip hop and he's Jewish. Like, that's pretty cool. That's cool. And he does it at a relatively high level. To be honest, Jewish music has a long way to go, and I think we're just now in the past few years making Jewish music that's more relatable, personable, higher quality production. And I think for a while the American Jewish music was really stuck in the traditional sense of Hashem, and all of them were just ayays and yoys, and I'm like, oh boy, we need to innovate majorly. Like, I'm Jewish, I want to listen to kosher music, but this is not relatable. So you have artists of the likes of Mendel, DJ Kraz, Yomar John, Oria, Levi Miller. These are artists on the come up who are bringing more nuance to it. Levi Miller is Matisyahu's son, and I like what he's doing because he has a song, Serenity, and it's not overtly Jewish, but it's relatable. Oria has a cool thing going. He makes music that's more world music. Some of it's in Hebrew, but then he also has like this pop and hip hop appeal with like high quality production, relatable lyrics, but he's still talking about God. And I think that's where the convergence is. It's like, can you love God, be relatable, and have high quality production? I think for me, not to like toot my own horn, like in a humble way, I think I have helped push the envelope of innovating and exciting the Jewish music industry, showing other Jewish music artists, like, look, you can go beyond the black and white, the ayayais. You can thread the needle into content that's really engaging and exciting. You can go there. Don't be afraid to show some color. And what I've seen is I know there's directly a handful of artists that I've helped them brand themselves, and they've gotten crazy better results. And beyond that, I'll even see people sending me DMs like, oh yeah, this person's making a video like your style. They're like going out there more, and that's something that I'm happy about. Like, I think Jewish music needs that personality, and I think we're finally catching on, but we have a long way to go. We have a really long way to go in Jewish music.
I think,
but there's progress. There's progress.
Yeah, for sure. And I think all those things are true of your music, and especially the relatability. Some people in Jewish music, they don't want to be edgy at all, but you do it in a great way where it's a lot of like subliminal messaging, but it comes off as still like relatable. Like, this is, a real person who wrote this. It's not just, it's a person who has, all kinds of modern imperfections. It's not just, King David. It's someone today, and all of your productions are always super high quality. And it's not just a Jewish music that you hear at a lot of weddings. It's like the same style of whatever's popular in like Latin pop or whatever, and they just put the Yiddish words over it, which is fine. It gets the people hyped up, but that's not the same as someone really pouring it out like you or Nissan Black or someone like that. All right, well,
I do want to give credit. I want to give credit to my producer Samuel Abelo. He's really taken whatever I'm doing with music and just elevated the sound quality to a whole nother level. I think Samuel Abelo is highly underrated, and if more Jewish artists started working with him and having their songs developed with Sammy A on the beat and even him guiding them, we would have much higher quality music across the board. I think we need people like Samuel Abelo, who understand music on a professional level, who understand structuring what makes a song tick in the Jewish music scene, right? Just to raise the bar. He's really helped me a lot create a more professional sound.
You and him should start a record label, get everyone the right resources. But maybe that's another day.
Well, if this music marketing internship goes well and I keep getting more experience, I think that's not out of the question. The truth is, I have a long way to go. I have a lot of knowledge to acquire, a lot of contacts to develop, and resources to obtain, but it's honestly not out of the question. It's definitely possible.
All right. So how can people find you on social
Geffen
media?
2.0.
What are your handles?
People can find me on social media at Levi Paris Music. So LeviParis Music. And depending on when you guys hear this podcast, right now I'm going dark mode because I'm working on making much better music, and I'm going to be coming back stronger than ever with my content. So when you follow me, just know that something big is coming.
All right. I love it. All right. Thanks so much, Levi.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. Chazak Baruch.
Chazak u'baruch. Shkoyach.